The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission has obtained an arrest warrant as it begins the extradition process of former Minister of Petroleum Resources Diezani Alison-Madueke from the United Kingdom back to Nigeria to face the 13-count charge bordering on money laundering leveled against her by the anti-graft agency. The commission revealed that the money laundering charges for which Alison-Madueke is answerable to the EFCC cover jurisdictions in Dubai, the United Kingdom, the United States of America, and Nigeria. The district judge, Michael Snow, granted Alison-Madueke a £70,000 bail and further imposed other terms on the former minister, including an 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. curfew, an electronic tag to be worn by her at all times, and a £70,000 surety to be paid before she could leave the court's building. The UK's National Crime Agency said it suspected Alison-Madueke had accepted bribes in return for awarding multi-million-pound oil and gas contracts. But joining us to discuss this is lawyer, social development advocate Olutubosun Oshifora. Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Welcome.
One big question that some persons are asking is that could this be the final chapter of her odyssey? As it is, that's the question. But seeing the NCA doing a thorough job, because they are known for that, and now we are getting all of this being put forward by the NCA, and the EFCC is saying that they are going to extradite her. Walk us through how this processes would go around.
First of all, Diezani, it's been a long run from the law.
Could this be the final chapter?
You know, when they say the arm of the law finally catches up with someone, you know, I think it's looking like the end, you know, and it's the beginning of the end. Maybe let me say that, as far as law and all this law catching up with her, you know. So, well, most of those things they remained in the realm of allegations until now that the courts have now finally said, okay, we're pinning her down to this. Now, but one of the things we need to also understand is that, you know, what the UK is alleging is different from what the EFCC is. The EFCC is about money laundering and a few other things. In the UK, basically, is bribery, which is a big offense. And, you know, is in this part of the world that we look at bribery as if I was there, you know, like that. And if you look at what was also alleged, I mean, the charges preferred against her, though she didn't enter a plea and all that, I mean, from what was said, but the charges preferred against her, you found that they were grave and multi-million pounds. And then you have used your office to award contracts somewhat illegally or to people undeserving. That's what actually necessitated the whole bribe thing. And now EFCC is talking about extradition. We've seen cases of extradition. I mean, the recent case, it used to be Kashamu, then, you know, then we had Nnamdi Kanu's case and all that. Basically, extradition it looks general, but it's also specific. It's specific to countries. That is, Nigeria enters a pact with another country and says that, okay, in matters of criminal affairs, where somebody has been accused of a crime in Nigeria or even in that country, then we will want to try this person. Now, extradition works in two ways, basically. You can be tried in the UK and then sent down to Nigeria to serve the punishment or the sentence. Or it's a question of, okay, we have stronger allegations and charges preferred against this person here. Now, let's send this person to you. Now, but it doesn't just work like that. It works basically with the Office of the Attorney General. Now, because, and then even before you get to the Office of the Attorney General, there are specific things that should be in place, which is number one, that the offense must be extraditable. It's not just somebody was working, he hit someone, then you have to not misdemeanor.
Right.
It must be a definite offense. It must be an extraditable offense. Most times you find this happen in relations to crimes like drug, you know, things like treasonable felony, or you find things that are related to serious cases like bribery and corruption allegation like this. So that's where you find countries, showing interest. We remember the case of Ibori and how he was taken from Dubai to the UK and tried, and, he did served the sentence there and everything. So that basically, extradition works between two countries. A country can enter into extradition pact with as many countries as possible, depending on how the country is serious in pursuing crime and also eschewing crime from its system. Now, so basically, in the case of Nigeria, let me not exaggerate, I was going to say 1 billion and all countries, but Nigeria is in pact with a lot of countries. I know it's in pact with the UK, the US, Dubai, and a few other countries. Majority of all the African countries too. Nigeria has a pact with them. Then we have the Extradition Act, which says how extradition should go. There's a procedure, there are protocols, because there are instances also where even a country may be requesting for someone, and the Nigeria may slow down or even say that we're not releasing this person to you, we're actually, going to make this person face the law in our own jurisdiction. We've seen that happen in different cases as well. But basically what happens is, in the case of Diezani, the EFCC has been on a trail. In fact, I remember there was a time the former EFCC chair, Bauer, and a few other persons, they were trying to assess her in the UK. They travel, but for some reasons, they have their laws, and also these things have jurisdictions. Yes. So you can't just barge in, no matter how much that person has, whatever that person has done. If you remember, if you cast your mind back to this drug lord, the Mexican drug lord, it took a while before Escobar, before America could actually get him and all that. So there's a whole lot of process.
It appears it's a long process. Because you would recall the Chiari case.
Exactly.
Yeah. I remember that I think there was a tussle between the U.S. The U.S. was trying to have him to answer to
come over
charges.
Exactly.
But, the Federal High Court in Abuja said there was already a case by the drug trafficking case, the drug
NDLA.
case by the NDLA here in Nigeria. And so he must, finish up with that before we get to the bridge of whether to extradite him to the U.S. But do you think that would also be an issue? Because now, in terms of her coming to answer to the charges in Nigeria, this has already been, it has already happened in London, that she's answering to bribery charges. So will that,
she's seen as a flight risk.
So she can't even travel. So will that also delay her coming to Nigeria?
It may delay, it may not delay. It depends on the pact, and it depends on the gravity of the offense, and also where it weighs more. For example, if the Nigerian government feels that, okay, this person, we can actually achieve more by bringing this person down, it's a pact. And pact basically has to do with agreements well spelled out. So definitely from the Office of the Attorney General, it depends on what they want and how they want it and how much they want it. And then that's how they will get across to the UK government. But also, it's not something that's going to happen in a day.
Right.
And it's not something that's going to happen in a hurry.
And she faces she risks a 10-year jail term if found guilty of bribery.
Over there.
Over there. And so in terms of seeking justice, well, through the eyes of the EFCC for whatever, their case may be. And you said that they've been on her tail for so long.
Forever.
They've been able to get forfeitures, permanent forfeitures of so many assets linked to her. They've even imprisoned people linked to her, but they've not been able to grab hold of her.
So I think that's why the EFCC is very much interested. And I think it might be one of the fastest extradition cases we've seen in recent times. It's happening already, because the EFCC, they made a statement and they're like, see, we need this woman more than you need her. You're holding her for bribery, which is as much a crime as ours is money laundering. And if we can recover this money, EFCC has made a lot of recoveries, from the forfeitures from the Diezani. And I think they feel that if we get hold of her and bring her here for trial, we might get something more
Are you
substantial.
confident?
Now,
We-
I am always confident in the Nigerian legal system. We that are inside there, we
course,
understand
you
the
say that.
system more.
Right.
And people outside, people can just make blanket statements and say, by the time they bring her here now, you know how you guys will do. You file this, you file that.
delay
Of course,
tactics.
yes.
Yes. Now, but you see, one of the things we also need to appreciate is that all these things being filed, there are rights under the law. If the law doesn't really protect or provide for such things, I don't think the courts will grant them. But in the law, you see, the wheel of justice may grind very slowly, but in the end, it will always come up with something pleasant. It may not now, being pleasant may not now be how you want it. Now, but in the end, I mean, look at how much progress has been done so
You
far.
found that progress. Yeah.
On our case, as far as the EFCC is concerned, they've made significant progress.
Right.
And I think this extradition will cap it. Now, but it's not left to the UK to now, acquiesce or agree to Nigeria's request to bring her down. But I think we have something, we have a good case against her. And I think trying her here and also getting something off her may work. In Nigeria needs all the money.
But Nigerians or observers would also, want to know what the interest of London is in a case. Okay, fine, you can take us to the days of Ibori, where Ibori served jail time there, but the bribery or the alleged bribery is said to have occurred while she was minister in Nigeria. And yes, you've also said Nigeria EFCC has treaties, has agreements with Interpol, the UK agencies and all that. But is the UK fighting a war for Nigeria, or is the UK fighting its own war? Does the UK have a case, its own peculiar case against Ms. Diezani? What does it seem like to you?
No, they have a case. Because if you look at what happened, if you look at the charges, right, from what we read, they said that she used her office and she took bribe, and some of the things involved were in the UK. So they have a level of, they have jurisdiction, not even a level, they have jurisdiction over her situation. Because, I mean, they said she got houses, she got favors. Majority of those things even happened in the UK. So by extension, they have a right to hold her down and make her face the law. If you look at Ibori's case too, Ibori was governor here.
Yeah.
He wasn't a governor in the UK. But at the end of the day, there's a way this criminal jurisdiction works. They won't just go hold someone. If you're a fugitive in your country and you run to another country, jurisdiction precludes each country from prying into particularly local affairs. Now, but there are instances where they look at it that, does this thing cross over to this place? Because they won't just hold you. Whatever they like, let them scream all they want in your country. That's their own cup of coffee. Now, but as long as they look at their laws and it crosses over into theirs, like the case of Diezani, they were able to establish that, say, some of the things this woman used, got as bribe, were resident in this place. The rest is here. Now, so by extension, we have a right to hold her for bribery. Now, what you're charging her for down in your country, it's a different ballgame. It's money laundering. That's the principal charge, and amongst other charges, preferred against Diezani. But in this case, they are holding her strictly for bribery, which is a very criminal offense. I said earlier that here we look at bribery like, what's there? Now, but there, it's a big thing, because you see, if you look at public office holders who take bribe, they interpret it in such a way that relates to the average person on the street. And by the time they break down the implication of bribery and using your office as a public office holder to create evil, by the time they extend it and expand it for you, you will see how it affects the common man on the street. And by that, they take such issues very seriously, more than we do here. Now, but with respect to bribery. Now, but you see, coming down here, money laundering is also a big issue here. And I'm privy to what the EFCC filed against Diezani. Now, but you see, if you look at their own charges, in as much as it's almost different from what happens there, a crime is a crime, and a crime must be paid for by whoever committed the crime.
Now, so whether UK will now agree to Nigeria bringing her down, it's a different ball game. But I think we don't have to wait for long to see that. Then also, you see, the way it's been handled there, I don't want to preempt. We want to wait on the Office of the Attorney General and see how fast and how serious they will go about this issue of extradition of Diezani to Nigeria to come and face charges here and face the music here. Then we will know that we can actually make a meaning of the whole statement by EFCC that we want her extradited here. Basically, that's what I feel, because it's the Attorney General that will determine, in as much as the EFCC is very much hungry to have her, it still has to go through a process. And like I said, is the offense extraditable? Is there a warrant of arrest? Those are the things you have to look at before you can actually bring someone down. And then, like the case of Kyari that you mentioned, you know, here we felt we have something more pressing here too. That can wait. And then maybe by the time he's done with whatever is here, then we can ship him down to you or ship him up to you, and then you can have him. So I don't know how this is going to play out.
Right.
But let's just keep our fingers crossed and just watch how the whole drama unfolds.
Not to preempt them, but you mentioned something earlier that I need you to expatiate on, talking about the fact that they take certain things seriously, the strictness of their laws with regards to addressing matters of bribery, money laundering and all, and how they break it down such that you see the implications. Let's bring it back home, because we are seeing the attendant impact and implication in the society, yet we are not taking it seriously. I need you to address.
It's a bit unfortunate. I traveled. Let me just bring this example. I'll link it. I traveled recently, and a friend of mine was lamenting. He just, you know, all those jackpot people. So he moved to the US, and he said that he just got a fine for $250. I said, what did you do? Hope you did. He said, no, that he was driving, that a school bus parked in front. He just felt he was on this lane, and he just moved.
Okay.
And they stopped him, and they said, so he said he was wondering that I didn't jam them. I didn't do anything.
He actually moved for them.
He moved. No, he moved. He just, you know the way we shunt in Nigeria, that you just, I beg, come up for road kind of thing. Yes, you're wasting my time. So he said he moved. So apparently, they have laws there that says when a school bus parks, you have to wait. Because by implication, they feel, for whatever reason, a child can run across.
Just run across, yeah.
You know, I never thought about it. And, you know, when he said it, I now looked at it like, these people, you know. And here, what's your business? Everybody just goes about that. Everybody's always in a hurry, particularly in this Lagos. So that's how they view when you use your public office in an inordinate manner. Because they calculate it down to, for example, there was some recent case of somebody dying in a lift in a facility in Lagos, health facility in Lagos. That is somebody's job. Somebody somewhere didn't take care of something in that regard. Now, but life has moved on from there. The way we move on here is one of the reasons why corruption problems are quite endemic here. We don't view things seriously. We just look at it, okay, well, one spanner loss, and that's it. But they don't look at it like that. They just look at it that you have used this office to do this, to do this. At the end of the day, the average person who should benefit, somebody who is in his house sleeping, you have messed up that person's life. You have disrupted this person's activities. That's how they interpret these things. Because the money that is supposed to go to, you know, public financing, public utilities, and, you know, things that will benefit the public, you have diverted it for personal use. You have given contract, or you have given things to somebody who is not the right person to do this thing, because they've given you a certain amount of money, you know, and you have diverted. So the right persons are not getting the right things. And at the end of it, things are not being done properly. That's how. So by the time we start looking at things from that angle, that, okay, this road that was not tarred, and somebody got into a pothole, and then the car somersaulted, then a life was lost, or something happened, or goods and things and properties were damaged. somebody is responsible for it. By the time we start interpreting things like that, then we will appreciate life more, we will appreciate living more, then we will also appreciate the fact that crime is not the way to go. Corruption is evil. Because in this part of the world, I was just talking with someone when I came, he said, when somebody gets into a public office, he goes to church to give testimony. What are you testifying? What? And people will start.
Before you even do the job.
Before you do the job, then people start coming.
The highs and lows he had to go through to get that office.
Oh.
Overcoming.
Then people start thronging you. People that you have not seen in a billion years start calling you. They're calling you for a purpose. In fact, the pressure on our public office holders is high. The financial pressure is high.
And that pushed them to the matter of...
You will put your hand on the cookie jar. Definitely you will. And then there's this thing of, it's our turn. Somebody in your tribe becomes, they will celebrate you. How our illustrious son has now been made minister, he's been made commissioner. We saw a lot of states, and you saw the pomp and pageantry, you saw the party, the whole thing. It was big. What are you celebrating? If you're actually serving, if it's a call to serve, it's like, I'm going to court now. And then you're doing party for me. Am I not going to do my job?
Basically.
I'm going there to serve. So that means there's more to that service. And you see people who put banner
enabling them. That's what you're saying. To do
everybody's culpable.
Involved.
Everybody's culpable. Because the pressure on those people is high. I'm not going to lie. I've worked with politicians before. I've worked in certain capacities before I went back to private practice. And I remember a former boss of mine, he was in a high position, then he's left. Then we went to one of these ministries. Everybody started hailing him. And they weren't going. That day I calculated, he had given out about 250,000. So the next time I went to meet him, like, boss, let's, help us follow up. He said, boss, I'm not going out. This is someone who's left office. But if he goes out 250 every day, come on, how much is he earning? He think up, and as long as you want to stay socially relevant, you have to keep dropping. We were driving, he was dropping money at junctions. They knew his car number, they knew his plate number, they knew everything. They know he has a couple of cars. And they would just stop and stand in front of him. You must drop something.
Deliver.
So at the end of the day, you find that, like you said, the society is enabling these people to delve into crime. Because you have to sustain...
But there are those who have refused to delve into crime. I must say there are those.
And what do they come back and say? They say, that person is stingy.
And so they wouldn't put them back into office.
We've seen that happen.
So it costs. But what about the criminal justice system? Our criminal justice system is tailored after, the English system, the UK system. But look at Ekweremadu, for example. Now we saw the thoroughness in the entire prosecution system, and now the Ekweremadus, they've been convicted. But yes, give it to our judges here. They are also thorough. They also do the needful. They work hard. But in terms of the system, you've spoken about the system outside the court, but I guess you could also say the court system is also a reflection of the larger society, because we still face so many challenges in proving cases of politically exposed persons, as in the case of Diezani and the others.
Well, thank God you know more about the system, and it's good the question is coming from you. Apart from my bias being a lawyer and practicing lawyer in this system, I'm going to eliminate my bias, professional bias, and speak to this. Most times people are quick to say what happens in the UK, the system is fast and all that, this and that and that. And I recall a situation where in my house, my wife had a case and they did it 3 days. She sat in the comfort of her home, did the case, they were joining by Zoom, and in 1 week they were done. That is a case in the US. She testified, gave all her evidence, and by the end of the week, the judgment was out. Do we have that kind of system here? No, we don't. The judges are working tirelessly. I told someone yesterday that I've observed that most times when judges retire, most of them don't last 5 years. They die because they work under very strenuous conditions.
If you could just hold a thought, we need to quickly go on a break. When we return, we'll continue this conversation. Do stay with us. I thank you for staying with us. Before we went on the break, we were looking at the case of Alison-Madueke, whom the EFCC is looking to extradite to face certain charges in Nigeria. And you were speaking to the justice system in the country.
The conditions are strenuous.
Right.
And life has moved with law practice or legal practice has moved with so much technology abroad than we have here. And I think that the handlers should begin to look into that situation so that judges can have less stress at dispensing their work. Because some of us have been to different crimes and we've seen how these things work. I once worked under an SAN, Yemi Kandi Johnson SAN, and he told us whilst we were working under him that any country you go, don't just go and play. If you travel with that, go and look at their courts. And you know, I took it upon myself. And every time I go to the stations, I just ask them, I want to see how these things work. And what we have here is a far cry from what obtains there. So you can blame the judges, you can blame the judicial officers, but if you want what obtains outside this country, I think the government needs to invest in judicial matters and in judicial officers and even the atmosphere where they work. Right. And that's how we can get what we desire and the kind of justice system that we pray for.
We saw the reaction of persons to the judgment in Kano, where it happened over Zoom, and we saw how people reacted. So the people also adapting to the changes is also another thing. But right. let's just we need to wrap things up. Thank you so much, Olutobosun Oshifowora, lawyer and social development advocate, for your time.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you very much.